In regards to the May 19th article, Entire Community Applauds Hawkeye, I feel the need to say, no, the entire community does not applaud Hawkeye. The sanitation workers who will be cleaning up around the crime scene for days won't be applauding, nor will the attorneys dealing with the wholly predictable lawsuits brought by the suspects. Applause, however, is the only thing Mr. Barton had in mind when he made a spectacle out stopping what amounted to a property crime with undue force and a disregard for civil rights. For a country that nominally opposes fascism, I find it appalling how often we collectively swoon over some costumed thug trampling over supposedly inalienable rights in the defense of some nebulous ideal of law and order. If we leave our fate in the hands of the unaccountable few, we deserve whatever future they make for us. Advancements in human science promise a future far safer than what they can provide, teeming with possibility. But sadly, we seem content with the bread and circuses of capes. George Tarleton, Hayward, California. Ultimately decided not to file a report. I took all of Sunday night off to clear my head, thinking of all the little compromises and betrayals of my principles that led me here. Somehow, in my desire to repair the world, I find myself allied with the very people that destabilize it. They are what they've always been. I have only myself to blame. I knew what the devil's bargain would entail. Tony thought I wouldn't notice, but he took Terrigen from the containment facilities, like it was a parent's car to be borrowed for a joyride. And when I caught him, pointed out the unacceptable risk he took, he flashed me a stark smile and shrugged, like a charming schoolboy who believes he will face no consequences. And he won't. Who would hold Iron Man accountable? None of them answer to any laws or authority. He is who he has always been, and I am that I am. My voice will not be heard. So what is there to do but carry on and hope that in the end, something of myself and my principles still remain? Monica says that her regenerative formula is my only hope. There will be significant side effects. Considering where the cancerous growths are, I must assume it will affect my cognition. I don't know if I will be here tomorrow, or if I will be me. M has suggested recording my thoughts prior to her treatments, to review afterwards. Recalling what I wrote may give me a sense of continuity between treatments, as my mind is irrevocably altered. The resentment I quietly nursed for the last 5 years flows like a torrent. Everything that has happened to me, to the world, could have been avoided if it were not for their arrogance. Make no mistake, I am dying because of the actions of the Avengers. A-Day proved to me what I already knew. There would be no saving the world with the help of the Avengers. The world needs to be saved from them. Despite the unimaginable tragedy, if the rest of humanity finally sees them for the threat that they are, then perhaps A-Day is the best thing that happened to any of us. Before A-Day, I labored under the misconception that through diligence I could work my way up, through the myth of meritocracy, until I was in a position to elevate the world. Now, I do not know if my new way of thinking is a measure of how much my mind has changed or how much I have learned. But back then, I was a fool. Stark and Banner became great by taking power when they could, by stealing what was not theirs, by branding and franchising. I have learned much under their tutelage. There is the power of their abilities, and there is the power that we surrender to them in fawning adoration. The latter was always the greatest and most deadly, but now, at last, that tide has changed. We no longer worship them like infant gods, and their power fades. When they dim and at last vanish, then humanity will have reclaimed what they stole from us. Only then can we walk together into a better future. Project Adaptoid continues to bear such perfect fruit. No one else sees it, but I feel the inertia, inescapable. No matter how hard the abnormals rail against their obsolescence, like static in the air, ozone taste, it's coming. The AIM experience will push potential into kinetic. When we show the public we can replace the superhumans with something faster, stronger, and obedient to mankind, then what allure will the superhumans still hold? No one prefers having a king when they could have a slave. There will be many sacrifices. Monica begins to doubt, and in her indecision, she is incapable. She dreamed of apotheosis for decades, but now she quails before the dawn of the new flesh. Perhaps she no longer feels for me. Perhaps she never did. I watched what she did to Bruce. If I can no longer trust her, I can no longer trust the formula. I am willing to ride this rotting chariot of meat to the end, if it means a world without reliance on the superhumans. Without them at all. Monica is dead, by my will. Her usefulness was at an end long ago, and her betrayal and lies were enough to condemn. Her death makes my purpose clear. All else is ephemeral. For mankind to survive, the superhumans must be expunged, down to the memory. Dark Terrigen, altered from the original form thanks to our research, is lethal to inhumans. Distribution is a mere afterthought. We have had the ability and the infrastructure. We only lacked the courage and will. In one day, I can reduce the inhuman population by 99.15%. So I will become an instrument designed for what I must do. For killing. A perfect mind inside a nightmare body. A mental organism designed only for killing. George Tarleton was an artifact of a past that no longer exists. MODOK is the way forward. I will drag us all beyond this prison of meat and matter. You are ash beneath a focused lens. I am the sun. Turn your faces to me, abnormals and humans alike. I am the mechanism of your ascension.
Listen closely, because I'm only going to say this once. I cannot do what I was brought on board to do if you can't stand on your own 2 feet. Your continuing error is one of scale as well as vision, something I've come to expect from you science types. You've had the answer in front of you all along, if you'd been paying attention. Your machine intelligence is still not fast enough to mimic my reflexes, because you're still holding them back. Let go of your leash and allow your synthoids to follow my lead. If you give them unrestricted access to their higher functions, they'll follow my lead, just like good soldiers. By next milestone, I want to see a functioning prototype of your photographic reflex module. I don't care if you have to do it behind Monica's back. I want their behavior protocols disabled.
The sheer volume of research and patents we acquired in the takeover of Stark Industries almost overwhelmed us. It took months just to sort through them all. Initially, we separated them into multiple categories based on profitability. Stark kept so many toys for himself that AIM's initial expansion was paid for many times over with just a few product releases. Now that we've achieved the stability we require, we can make use of the tech that Stark himself put on ice. His squeamishness and hesitation in the face of his own research is a gift that we can't squander. I'm sending your team several nasty little ideas. I would like to see them incorporated into your training regimen immediately. And, Masters, no need to keep your methods secret from me. All I care about is results. Use anything at your disposal to achieve your ends. I brought you in for a reason.
I want to start treating them like soldiers. Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., we drill the machine learning algorithms in hunting and combat protocols in the forest above the facility. Put the code onto the basic combat model and use animal targets before we move up to live human targets. One of the goals of your facility is to pursue projects that would not be traditionally looked upon as appropriate or moral. As long as we remain careful, we don't have to worry about the prying eyes of nosy bureaucrats. They will be happy to reap the benefits of our work without ever having to see how the sausage is made. And when it's their turn to be fed into the meat grinder, they won't see it coming, as long as we can keep this facility a secret until the time comes.
This discussion is over. Your concerns are noted, and I'm insulted that you did not assume that I'd already weighed them against the benefits. Far from being a risk, Tony Masters' past as a SHIELD agent is added benefit to his appointment to the Adaptoid Project. Masters' innate photographic reflexes make him uniquely qualified to serve as the model and guide for our next phase of AI. His unequal talents of observation and mimicry will provide the baseline image for our combat simulations. But whereas his body is flawed and weak, the potential of our synthoids will be limitless. Once he has served his purpose, each generation of AI will be able to instruct the next. But for now, we need Masters.
I can't put what I do into words, but I don't need to explain anything to you. Just to the machines. Just make sure the monitoring headset is small enough not to impede my motion, but I know you people are adept at miniaturization. Your job is to record data from the trained source individual, the one I watched demonstrate the skill, and from myself as I master and repeat the skill set. You'll get better data if you also have a third party, one of your own security staff with standard mnemonic abilities. Have them watch the demonstration, and give repeating it the old college try. That gives the AI 3 distinct reference points to base its learning model off of: the trained original, unskilled repetition, and me. We'll start with Kinamote, one of the few martial arts I haven't had experience with yet, and then the control subject and I can go toe-to-toe. Make sure the space is easily cleaned. There'll be a lot of blood. I have been clear on my conditions of satisfaction for this project, and again, you failed to meet them. Let me be frank, because I respect your skills and don't believe you are intentionally trying to anger me. Your assessments are technically correct. Magnetically docked spherical wheels would provide increased maneuverability. Repurposing a ground effect generator would indeed increase stability. That isn't the point. You're approaching this like an engineer or an insect, and neglecting the human response to seeing a mobile weapons platform crawling towards you on 6 segmented legs, all hissing hydraulics and steel. The arthropod form taps into 500 million years of ingrained terror in vertebrates. You are quite literally evolved to fear the sight of them. Try to imagine the effect transposed to the scale of this mech. The psychological trauma of first contact alone is worth any minor technical downsides. I look forward to your next design, and let me know if you require a primer in the sort of emotional reaction I am trying to achieve.